So we have a question for you. How far are you willing to go to help others? Never mind your family or people close to you. We're talking about complete strangers. Last year, we saw thousands of families and businesses go under during the unrest in KZN and in Johannesburg. While the government is still seeking answers, the Afrika Tikkun Foundation hit the ground running and started assisting all those affected. The NGO CEO Alef Meulenberg joins me now live to tell us more about their efforts. Mr. Meulenberg, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Now, firstly, I read somewhere in an article mentioning this particular initiative that you had, but that you didn't expect it to be this big, right? So who are these donors who decided to assist you?
So it actually started out of frustration, I would say, where we were frustrated that so many small businesses were affected by the looting. And we started a small PR campaign, and FNB came to the party immediately and said, we'll put 2.5 million rand in this in order to help the 50 businesses that you wanted to help initially. And post that, we posted something on LinkedIn, and the IDC got aware of that, and they came on board, and then Solidarity Fund came on board, and First Rand came on board, and EFSA came on board, and Sestria came on board post the floods, and EFSA came on board again, and E2 came on board as an Ellen Gray affiliated entity. So it became something that we really didn't expect from the get-go. And we were really like, let's help 50 businesses, and let's see that we can play a role in this.
It became a monster in a good way, that is, because you raised about 140 million rand, I believe. Now, talk to me about the fact that you're saying that some of the applicants, these businesses who were affected either in June last year or during the floods, you mentioned that you didn't necessarily give them hard cash to be able to sort out their problems. Just explain to us how that process worked.
So it was quite an elaborate process when it comes to verifying the businesses. So one, we wanted to verify the business itself, we wanted to verify their banking details, but we also wanted to verify the suppliers that they wanted to use. And then promoted particularly to use wholesale suppliers so that we can have a number of suppliers that were verified, and that made the process from a logistical point of view just a lot smoother for us, but also for the entrepreneur, because they know then exactly that what they requested, they're actually going to get. And they can pick it up at a specific location at any given point. In order for that to, let's say it's groceries, they would be able to pick up those groceries at we normally work with Jumbo in KZN, so it would be with Jumbo or with any other retailer that where we would be receiving the groceries from. So that was pretty much the way we've done it, and it worked really well, both for us and I think also for the entrepreneur themselves.
So street vendors and informal traders, for instance, were also quite badly affected during the July unrest and even during the floods, because both what happened during these two different times didn't choose who it was going to affect, right? So did you involve, for instance, informal traders to assist them as well, or was it just people who owned shops in a structure?
Yeah, so we did involve street vendors or informal traders. We even gave them a different name. We call them now urban retail outlets, because there's such a stigma immediately when you say a street vendor or an informal trader. So there were requirements that we had. One of the requirements was obviously that we would be able to support them through a supplier, not directly. And there were other requirements as well, that they had to be able to prove that they were affected by the floods, but also that they were able to showcase that the business was operating already beforehand. So we had requirements, and those requirements were met properly. And if they did meet those requirements, then we'd be able to help them accordingly.
And is this project still ongoing? Are you still, for instance, receiving applications?
Yeah, we are. So we are still receiving applications, and this project will probably be ongoing until the end of the year. Even this format was slightly different. One of the cool things that we picked up is that a lot of these businesses that we helped are actually really interesting businesses. And I think in the article that we referred to earlier was a sweet shop. And that sweet shop for me is just such a great example of a business that could scale beyond her current shop into multiple outlets throughout the country. And that's kind of where we see a follow-up on what we initially did with Reviving Township Economies, and we call it Reviving Township Economies 2.0, is how can we help these businesses now to scale? not just post unrest, but in general, because there's a real economy there and there are real go-getters from an entrepreneurial point of view who make stuff happen in their communities and who are creating jobs, and we want to support them.
I'm going to ask you one last question, and it's a little bit controversial, just a little bit. In terms of government's assistance in both these areas, have you heard anything about government wanting to, for instance, partner with you or assist? I mean, yesterday, for instance, the AG told Parliament that government is way too slow in its assistance in KZN after the floods in April. So you can imagine then, if they couldn't help the flood victims in April, what have they done since July? So are you getting any communication, for instance, from the governments of both Gauteng and KZN or even national to partner with you in your assistance?
So yes and no. So government obviously provided funding to Solidarity Funds, either government or Government Health Institute Solidarity Fund. So our biggest supporter in this, in the end of the day, was Solidarity Fund. So in that sense, we have to be grateful that that institution was set up and that it was appropriately governed, and it really was. The audits that were coming from them were really, really good and really thorough, and it helped us also as individuals and as an organization to see that as part of the funding from government was really well spent, and so that was good. When it comes to government's involvement directly, no. We haven't worked with government directly on this. It was really a private initiative from us initially to say, how can we do this? How can we play our part? Do we just want to clean the streets, or do we actually want to pinpoint something where we can make a large impact? And we landed on entrepreneurial development post the looting and post the floods subsequently. So it was not a coordinated effort with government, but I know that they have been doing some things, but for us, the main collaboration was with the Solidarity Fund from a government perspective.
All right. Afrika Tikkun CEO Alef Meulenberg, thank you so much for speaking to us here on All Angles. At least a positive story there for a Friday. Still to come.